Hello, everyone. Welcome to the part two of our webinar series on exploring the ABCs of modern hiring. My name is Suchil Bojama, and I'm thrilled to be your host today. For everyone who is here for the first time, I'm the product marketing manager at PyjamaHR. PyjamaHR is a forever free applicant tracking software designed to help recruitment teams globally to streamline their hiring process. Today, we are honored to have Naveen Rani, founder and leadership talent hunter at Consulting, joining us as the speaker. Naveen has an impressive track record of building strong leadership teams for high growth companies and has been instrumental in helping founders scale their businesses. With his expertise in crafting effective teams for early stage startups, Naveen has collaborated with numerous founders to build teams from the scratch. In addition to his consulting work, Naveen is a successful entrepreneur, having launched his own D2C brand, Formula X, and a hyper local platform for delivering organic vegetables. Today, Naveen will be sharing his valuable insights on how you can master the art of talent hunting. During this webinar, if you have any questions, please raise your hand and we'll give you an opportunity to speak. So without any further delay, let's dive into the exciting topic. Over to Naveen.
Hey, hi everyone. So good to see everyone again. So following our earlier session, we spoke more about the internal skills which are required in terms of hiring. Today we'll be talking more about the core skills, the actual sourcing skills that are required when it comes to hiring. So to begin with, let me just start the presentation. Yep. So this is the first part of your recruitment process as a whole. Okay, now you might be wondering why I have these pictures there. So one is so in Hindi, one is a fool and the other one is a gobi ka fool, right? So the reason why I put that is the general communication or the whisper which happens when it comes to recruitment. So I put a lot of focus in my earlier webinar where I spoke about communication being an important aspect of recruitment. So this is why, because if you do not gather the requirement correctly, you're going to end up getting a Bhumika fool for your client or the stakeholder, right? So the most important part about recruitment, in my opinion, is the requirement gathering. And more often than ever, this is a part which is overlooked the most. Now, what is requirement gathering? So, requirement gathering is, let's say you're a part of an internal team of a company where you're working as a talent acquisition expert there, or you're responsible to hire talent there. So, your job over there would be to understand what the line manager requires. So, take an example if he's giving a requirement. So, the role is where you understand what all the aspects that are going to affect that particular role and how that role is going to affect the organization. Like we mentioned in the earlier webinar, it is about looking at the whole picture, the broader vision is what we need to look at. Okay, so I've given a few specifics of how to understand a job description. So a job description is a document which is created after we do the requirement gathering, right? So here are a few things which are very specific to a job description, okay, and which will help you gain role clarity. So the first thing which I feel is important is you need to understand where does this particular role map in the whole system. So the reporting structure. Who is this person going to report to? Okay, how many people are going to report under him? So this is an important factor, and every candidate who's going to apply for this particular role would be interested in this part. Okay. Next would be the job profile. What is the actual job function that the person is expected to carry out? His core impact area is what we need to understand. If it is a sales or business development role, most of the times companies do not reveal this information to you, but it is good to understand, what kind of revenue, what kind of it's a sales role, what kind of average recurring revenue are we looking at? Details like that. Travel requirements, because of course we need to understand how often does a person need to travel. This part is all right nowadays because of remote working, but it is an important role because even if it is a HR function, if it's a support function, but there are multiple offices, so we need to understand whether the role requires the HR manager or whoever we are hiring to travel across these locations. Then of course the working days, working hours, which are very important if there are any shifts involved. And nowadays, post COVID, now we have flexibilities that the job offers. So these are the additional perks. So whether it is work from home, whether it's a hybrid structure, or complete work from office, that needs to be determined. And of course, the CTC with respect to that particular role, and if there are any additional benefits, do we have any incentives? Do we have any sort of variables? Or if that role particularly offers any kind of ESOPs. So once you have this information, all this information is very candidate specific because all this information is going to be what the candidate will require if he wants to express interest in this role. The next part is role specific. Okay, so we need to check and assess whether the candidate is meeting these criteria, whether we can hire this candidate and if he has the required skills and whatever are the bare minimum deal breakers, does the candidate possess them, right? So, of course, one important thing is the educational qualification. Is he qualified for that particular role? Second would be what sort of specific skills are we looking at? Is there any minimum amount of experience? Of course, we also have to look at is there any maximum amount of experience that we're looking at? And these are must-have skills. Okay, so there could be a particular skill which is a must-have that you cannot do without. Whereas there could be another skill which is good to have. So we'll discuss that when we take a few examples. And another aspect which you need to look at is whether the company and the culture matches. Okay, so here we need to assess what what company are we hiring for and where does the candidate come from. Okay, a typical mismatch of this would be take an example if you're hiring for a startup and if you are trying to hire from a large multinational company. Now it's not that startups do not hire people from multinational companies and bigger setups, but we need to clarify that because the culture is certainly going to be different in terms of a startup, whereas vis-a-vis compared to a multinational company. So you need to make sure that the candidate is aligned to that particular role. And if your client in the first place is open to hire someone from a bigger company. So most startups will tell you that you want someone from a startup setup, right? So that's more about gaining role clarity. So these are the key aspects which I've jotted down. You could add a few, subtract a few based on the role requirement. But this is a typical setup which I look at. Okay, right. So moving on, so I'm going to look at another example. So this is a typical job description which we are looking at. Okay, head of engineering. Yeah, so this is it's an example which I'm taking. So we were hiring for this role for a 0 to 1 phase startup. Okay, so the requirement comes to us. Now, let me give you one example. Okay, so in general, startup founders or the line function is very busy, and when they're trying to give me these requirements, they're generally in a lot of hurry. Okay, so you need to be quick to note down the key points. So if you have a structure like this in place, you'll be able to pick up these key points very quickly. So we need to make sure that these points are picked up effectively. Okay, so when we talk about a head of engineering, we need to understand that this is a 0 to 1 phase startup, where we just have the founder and a few founding team members who are already there. And of course, it's a platform-based company. This was a SaaS-based company. So they wanted to build a whole technology platform. So in this particular role, I'm going to show you the typical JD which the client had shared with us. So this is the requirement which the client gave us. Okay, so it's a typical requirement where he is responsible to scale the platform from the 0 to 1 phase.
Naveen,
Given
I think screen, you're sharing just the PPT screen.
yes, okay, give me a moment, please. A typical JD which a client would share, most of the times you'll have a lot of confusion between the job profile and the requirement because, especially in tech, they switch uh, the points here. But what is important is the job profile is what function this person is going to carry out, and requirement is what is required in order to perform this particular job in an efficient manner. Okay, so that's how the segregation should be. Now, this role that we have, I've gathered some points. Okay, so instead of looking at such a large paragraph, okay, I need to summarize. I need to highlight the key points of this particular role. So I know for a fact that this person is going to lead a tech team. Okay, so this is a key point for me. Second, I need to understand that he's going to scale up the platform from 0 to 1. He's going to lead a team of high performance engineers. Okay. Next, what is important for me in this particular role, I need to understand is the tech stack. So in the tech stack, they've looked at Python, Django. So It is Python or Django, which is a must-have, plus React. So it's a full tech stack that they want. Okay, so that is backend plus front end, and this is the PostgreSQL which they are looking at. So the client has specifically asked me to find people for this particular tech stack. Now, what I generally do, I take a notepad and then I highlight the key aspects. The format which I just showed you earlier, I have a similar format like that, and I start filling in the details. So my second point must have for this particular role is the fact that the client is looking at a tech team from either a B2C, B2B SaaS company. So having a SaaS exposure is something which is more important, and the client is also looking for something on the startup front. Now, another important aspect which the client has specified here, he wants people who are graduates or postgraduates. MBA not mandatory, it's good to have. But if he's a graduate, he needs to be from a tier one engineering college, like probably a IIT or a BITS on those lines. So this is how a client will typically share a job description with you. Okay. Now we need to break this particular job description down and then make your own notes. So typically, this is how I make the notes. There were some questions which were not answered in the job description. So you list them down, and then you could say separately ask the founder over email, the founder or the stakeholder over email, or give them a call and get those points in. But it's important not to move forward without having the right information with you. So see, this reporting structure for this role, it's a leadership role. It reports directly to the founder. It's going to, what is the job profile? You're going to lead the platform development right from the 0 to 1 phase. Okay. Here again, you need to understand the company background as well, whether it's a fintech platform that the client is building, whether it's a B2B platform, B2C platform. So this will help you understand when you communicate with the end candidate. Okay. Does it have any travel requirements? Now, even for the tech role, if there are multiple offices, there could be a travel requirement. But for this, it's not applicable. The smaller setup. Working days are 5. We've got 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's work from office. The client is not okay with a work from home or a hybrid model. So we've clarified that. And what is the CPC which is offered? So they are offering something around 75 lakh plus annum. And more or less, this is flexible. So here again, we need to understand whether how flexible the client is open to work out. So in general, if the client is mentioned 75 lakhs, I know for a fact that I can go up to a 1 CR on this, plus ESOPs. But understanding this is very important, how flexible the client is. Now, moving on, when we talk about the education, he wants a BE or a BTech from a premier institute. So that becomes my education. This is a fill in the blank for me. What are the must-have skill sets? Okay, so I've got my must-have skill sets. Minimum number of years is 5+ years. Okay, and the tech stack that they should be working on is Python or Django plus React.js plus PostgreSQL skill. And they would need to be from the fintech or e-commerce domain. So the whole JD, I've tried to summarize it into this particular one page. And what are the good to have skill sets which they are looking at? So they want someone with a payment gateway. Another good to have skill set which I might have missed was the MBA. If they have an additional MBA, it would be an added advantage. And of course, this is the scaling match. So now I cannot hire from a services company here. If I'm going to give them and if I'm going to give them a CTO from a services company, I'm going to have a challenge there. But here we are going to, in order that this matches and it's a perfect fit, we need to look for someone who has a 0 to 1 scaling experience. Because the kind of challenges that they're going to face are very similar to any other startup which is in the 0 to 1 phase. Right? So this is about how I analyze this JD and how I've broken it up. So whenever I get a JD, I break it up. Now, this was a tech JD. I try to analyze a non-tech JD now. So it's a very simple JD, much simpler than the earlier one. It's a manager, finance and accounts. Sushil, I hope you can see my screen here.
I can see the job description screen. Yes.
Okay. So this is another client. It's an e-commerce platform for which they were hiring. So they're again at a 0 to 1 phase. And what they were looking at is so the typical accounting function. This person is going to lead the whole accounting function. So now, if you want to analyze how to look at a JD, you need to understand where is the job coming from. Okay. So currently they are at it's an early stage startup, not a very early stage startup. Say about 20-30 people are already in. So most of these accounting functions are already outsourced. So they have the audit firms or the CA firms which are taking care of these accounting functions. So when a startup grows, they would want to take these functions on the internal side. So that is the reason why this particular role has come to. Okay, so this role is going to report to the founder of the company, and who is going to be responsible to take care of the entire accounting function, right from the regular accounting to statutory compliance, taxation, and MIS. And in case he knows any sort of cash flow and all, it is a good thing. So that is a typical role. And for that, what are the requirements that they have? So they need a CA or a CS. So here there's an error in the JD. They actually need a CA. And if it is a CS, it's a good thing. So but they need an all India top rank holder. So these are typical requirements startups are given these days. So it's a AIR rank holder is what we are looking for in case of chartered accountant, and 3 to 5 years of accounting and finance, core accounting and finance experience. And the must-have experiences, finalization of accounts, statutory compliance, like all the GST and TDS matters. So this is it. Now I have broken this down in my template. So I've tried to, this question I did not have, so I asked him who would this person reporting to. So he said, okay, we'll be reporting to the founder directly. The job profile is going to be very, leads the entire accounting function. Just give me 1 second, please. Okay. So the entire accounting function, accounts up to finalization, statutory compliance, taxation, and MIS. There is no need to travel for it. 5 days working, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. work from office. And the CPC offered is 20 to 30 lakhs. There are no ESOP offered here. Again, in my education criteria, I have mentioned CA with all India rank. What are my must have? I need 2+ years. Now, the client had actually mentioned in the GD, but after probing, I came to that the client is okay with at least 2+, considering the budget part, because all India rank holders are much more expensive. So the client is okay if we negotiate the number of years of experience to about 2+. But he needs no finalization, he needs to have statutory compliance, taxation, and MIS. And if he has some good knowledge about discounted cash flow. Now, this must be something internal which the client would be specifically looking at. Okay. Now, again, in order for this particular candidate to match, he needs to have startup experience. So, a lot of these all India rank holders join bigger companies. So, I found a lot of all India rank holders with these oil and gas companies. However, there would be a definite culture mismatch because they are in a much more structured and larger accounting background here. Whereas in case of startups, a lot of things you have to do a lot of things yourself. You have to roll up your sleeves and perform, right? The working hours are different, flexibilities are different, the growth curve is different. So sometimes candidates understand that, and you can always communicate with your client. And I have a good candidate who's very keen on this. Would you like to consider? But it all depends, how open your client or the stakeholder is. So this is an example of the non-tech requirements which I wanted to show you. Now, if you want to analyze, I want to quickly work on the third part. Now, this third part is where I'm going to give you a small assessment. You can have a look at this JD. Kushal, will I be able to attach something in the chat?
If it's a link, you can post it over there. Yeah, they'll be able to.
I can have a document.
Yeah, I think you can attach a document as well.
So I've attached a document. So it's a job description if you can open it. So what we can do here is we can try to analyze this JD and we can try to simplify it. Okay, so this is a requirement for a HR business partner. Sushal, hope everyone has received it.
Yeah, I think, yeah, we've got it on the chat.
Okay.
Naveen, you've put it to the host. You have to put it as everyone. You put it as host and panelist.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'll send it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think everyone's received it now. If someone can confirm. Yeah.
Great. The Kamlesh has confirmed the incident.
Yeah.
You can just practice creating, analyzing the JD and marking the keywords and things that matter. You could probably, in case something is not mentioned, if the template does not have something which you want to ask, you can probably just put a question mark there. So that becomes a reminder for us that this is a question that we need to ask our client. Okay. So this is a JD for a HR business partner, which was sent by a client of mine. So if we could, I'll give you about 5 minutes. if you could quickly create a similar template, try to answer the questions on based on what I mentioned. The key factors which are going to be there are the reporting structure, job profile, travel requirements, working days, whether it's work from home or hybrid, CTC, if there are ESOPs available, and what are the role specific requirements, whether education, must have skills, good to have skills, company, and culture match. So this is a self-assessment. It is just for you to practice. So what you could do is you could probably note all this thing down. In the next slide, I'm going to give all the answers, just for you to verify that. You could also drop your answers on the chat so everybody can see. All right. So I think we should have all the answers in place now. And move to the next slide where all the you could just cross verify your answers. There's no problem. It's just for our learning. As long as we structure every JD, I think, and clarify what is required, what is the role specific requirement, and what is the requirement that the candidate would be interested in, we'll be getting through to the right candidate. Okay. So moving to the next slide, here are the answers. So for the HR business partner, the reporting structure is a question mark that we need to ask. We need to ask the client. So I've added a question mark there. The job profile is, it seems like a more pure talent acquisition role with some generalist duties. So 90% talent acquisition with 10% generalist duties. Travel requirements, yet to ask. We need to ask the client. Working days is mentioned 5 days. Working hours 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Work from home, it's a hybrid. 2 days work from office and 3 days, 3 days work from. CTC is 20 to 30 lakhs per annum. That's what is specified. What is the role specific requirement that the client is looking at? Education. They're looking for a postgraduate with from a premier institute. So it could be an MBA or it could be any kind of master's from a premier institute is what the client is looking at. Okay. They must have 3 to 5 years of talent acquisition experience. Now here they've specified the domain. Okay, so it cannot be any kind of talent acquisition experience. They need to have this particular domain experience. So it means that 3 to 5 years of either SaaS or e-commerce domain experience in terms of talent acquisition. Now, the reason why the client is asking for these requirements is because that particular domain will have a typical kind of hiring. It could be the tech stack, it could be the kind of tech team that they're looking at hiring, or the branding team. So that is the reason why they're looking at this. And good to have experience would be HR generalist. So it's okay if they do not have an HR generalist experience, as long as the talent acquisition with a SaaS or e-com background is the strongest. Okay, and in terms of company culture match, they definitely want people only from startups or early stage startups. They don't want larger companies. It will be a culture mistake. Right. So hope everyone has got their answers right. Now we move to the actual sourcing, the sourcing strategy that is involved. Now, when we talk about the talent strategy that we were discussing earlier, I'm going to be specific with the sourcing strategy.
Naveen, sorry, but I think Akshay had a question about the previous year.
Okay, let me take that.
But if that says preferred to, will it still be must have?
So it is preferred, Akshay. It is Akshay Kendra, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Akshay, when the client is preferred, okay, it's good to have. It's a good to have skill. Okay, so like when we spoke about the tech requirement which was there, okay, the head of engineering, they definitely wanted someone with the tech stack which is Python, Django, and React. Okay, at the same time, the good to have information there was if they have worked on a payment gateway. So if you find a profile with that particular tech stack, okay, which is Python, Django plus React JS, okay, and he does not have the payment gateway experience, which is okay for the client. But if there are two candidates with the same profile and one of them has the payment gateway experience, it is likely that they are going to prefer the payment gateway experience candidates. Good to have, yes. It goes to the good to have. Welcome. Okay. So now moving on, let's look at the sourcing strategy. Okay, so when we talk about sourcing, how are we going to find? So your sourcing strategy is before we even begin sourcing. Now that we have all the information with us, we have a persona in our mind. We need to define, first of all, why am I going to source this particular candidate? Okay, in case of recruitment agencies, we do not have a lot of information about this, but if you're working at the client's end, then we need to understand whether it's a replacement requirement or whether it's a fresh requirement. So, like I said, in terms of the manager finance and accounts, the requirement is where a lot of these functions were outsourced. Now they want to get it internally. So you need to understand that there's a lot of workload which is going to come. Okay. So when we are trying to source this particular candidate, we are going to have this in our mind that okay, this is what the candidate is going to expect there. Okay, so I'm going to try to find people who have similar sort of experience, who've come in and then set up everything from ground zero. That's the reason why is a very important part to ask. Okay, what am I going to source? Of course, we've defined that. What are the key skills that I'm going to look at? What are the must-haves and what are the good-to-haves? Where am I going to search? So I need to identify that where I'm going to find these people. Okay, I could find a loop of, so in general, if it is an industry specific requirement that I'm sourcing, I will make a list of all the key companies in that industry. If it is location specific requirements, if it is a, for example, if it's a tier one college, I can even go and find out a group on LinkedIn, for example, with that particular institute. So filters like which LinkedIn offers are really good. They allow you to actually source people based on certain skills or qualifications. Okay, and how much, of course, is based on the CTC part. Okay. Now, when we are trying to source candidates, okay, there are two methods of doing it. Another three methods of doing it. Okay, there's going to be a pull strategy, there's going to be a push strategy, and there's going to be a push and pull. Most of the requirements require push and pull both, but the percentages may vary. Okay, so when we talk about the pull strategy, it is more about pulling requirements in. Now, this is more about when it comes to junior level requirements. Most of these junior level requirements, they could be a customer service executive or it could be an accounts executive. So these requirements work through pull. So you can just simply advertise them. You can put them on job boards, and then you can wait for the application. It's about screening these applications and then processing the candidates. In terms of push, push works for majorly candidates which are very difficult to find. They are niche profiles that we work on. So a head of engineering is a difficult profile to work on. Now it does not mean that I will not post my requirement on the job board. I will. Okay. However, I cannot be dependent on the applications I get. I have to outreach. I have to connect with people in addition to the applications I'm receiving. Okay, because the demand and supply changes there. Now, in terms of uh, so what sort of push requirements you have? They could be networking. So uh, there are certain networking events which you could attend, and then you could connect with these candidates. Of course, LinkedIn has made things much easier where you could connect. So I think being a good recruiter is about connecting with people and having a large large network of connections together. Some good headhunters always keep track of their candidates. They keep talking to their candidates on and off, and they build personal relationships with their candidates. We're going to cover a bit more about that in our next webinar. And of course, there are job portals which we can actively search. So there are most of these job portals are going to have active job seekers. When we talk about networking or LinkedIn, we are going to we would be able to approach passive job seekers in addition to active job seekers. And push pull is the ratio. You know what is the ratio that you're going to look at. So even before you begin hiring for a particular role, you need to define how much is your focus going to be on the push strategy or on the pull strategy, right? And then eventually, so that's more about once we now that we've identified, okay, this is the person that I'm going to look at hiring. Okay, I've got my template in front of me. What are the must-haves? What are the good-to-haves? Then I begin my sourcing techniques. Now, in case of my sourcing process, okay, the first thing that I need to understand is the keyword because eventually I'm going to map my people using keywords. I need to understand what are the key aspects that I'm going to look at in every profile. So before keywords, I want you guys to understand what a search engine is. Okay, let me just escape this. So you can see my screen, right?
Yeah, yeah, we can see the screen.
So The reason why I want to talk about what a search engine does is because that will help you give clarity no matter which portal you use, whether you're going to use LinkedIn, you're going to use Naukri, Monster, or any portal that you choose to use. If you've got the keyword right and you've got your search logic right, you should be able to find the right candidate. You should be able to source the right candidate. So that is the reason why I want to focus a bit on your sourcing on the search engine. Okay. Now, here's something interesting with Google. Okay. So if I'm going to try to search myself on Google. Now, what happens is it's given me something around 13,60,000 results with Naveen Rai. Now, this is the typical search engine. Okay. Any kind of portal is going to have a very similar search engine within them. So what it does is the first thing the search engine is going to do, it's going to search Naveen and Rani together. So your first page has all the images and the context which is related to Naveen Rani together. Okay. Now, as I go further down, once the search engine starts getting exhausted, it will start working on either Naveen or Rani. Right? So there is no mention of Naveen here. So there's Rani here, and then there is Naveen Shetty. So what the search engine has started doing, it has started either showing me results with Naveen or Rani, not necessarily they are together. Okay. So with this particular concept, I got 13,60,000 results. Okay. Now I'll just simply put two quotes here. Now having these quotes is going Google, the search engine is going to search this exact phrase Naveen Rani. Okay, so my search results have narrowed down to just 6,670. So these are Naveen and Rani together. Even if I go to my last page, I'm going to find Naveen Rani together. Right? Now here it is not trying to find Naveen or Rani. It's finding Naveen Rani the total face. Okay. Something interesting which you need to also understand with this is you can also have more filters. Okay. So if you go to your settings and click on advanced search, even Google will give you the search engine terms. It will give you some tools. Right from whether you want to search all, whether you want exact phrase. If I had, since I had put the quotes, my name was here. Any of these words, none of these words. So these are very similar filters that you see in your job search engine, right? Your job portals. You can choose the language. You can in fact choose the file type as well. So a very interesting example is this. I can actually, if I have to look at full stack, yeah, I'll just put this in the exact place. And I can choose my format as PDF. It's going to give me all the keywords with full stack, and my search results are all PDFs. See this full stack engineer application. I might even be lucky to find a resume here if I add some more, a few more details. But the idea is for you to understand how search engine functions. If you understand this particular concept, no matter which portal you're working on, you'll be able to source. Got it? So hope that was useful.
There are two questions, if you want to take it right now, about the same thing. Manisha is like, so basically we are using Boolean search to make our search more neat. Yeah. And Akshay is asking, can we type keywords in there?
So Boolean search, yeah. So Boolean search is what I just said, and or it gives you a combination of searches. So yes, and so like I said, see, we'll talk more about this part now. Okay, adding too many filters. So if your keywords are right, you will not go wrong with the search. Sometimes in general, when we make our searches, we add too many keywords together. That's where we do not get the right results. I'll just come to that particular part. So then we can discuss this in detail. And Akshay has asked keywords in here. Akshay, what do you intend to ask? If you meant the advanced search part, I think that's what you meant.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a wireless keyboard on this lagging. Okay. So if you meant, can we add the keywords here? Yes, you can add the keywords here.
Mm.
So I can in fact,
He has a suggestion. Can you search venture capital and then investment?
so what is the reason? I think we'll take this particular part in the later question and answer session, so we can interact and understand what it is.
Works.
So that would be better.
Yeah.
Okay. So now coming to the point where we're looking at the keywords. Okay. So I want to first talk about a few do's and don'ts when you're sourcing. Okay. So you've defined your keywords that I know that, okay, my must-have keywords are, let's say for the tech requirement, I need someone with either Python or Django. So my search is going to be either Python or Django. Plus, I'm going to look at React.js. That's my keyword. Now, whenever I do a search, I know for sure that I need a React.js as a must. There is no two ways about it. So what I do is I mark my first, the most important keyword, okay, which is React.js. So then my first search will begin with React.js. Okay, then I have all the candidates with React.js with me. Following that, then I will try to filter these candidates for them. Okay, and when I use these filters, so then I would try to either use Python or Django because the client is okay with either of the experience. Okay, now what you need to make sure is whenever you're using filters, okay, we should not be filtering them. It should not happen that from your first search, first filter has given you 60,000 candidates, example. Okay, it should never happen that from 60,000 candidates, you immediately jump to 300 candidates, which means you're using a difficult filter. So the idea is to go step by step in terms of your filtering process. If you're going to do that, you're not going to miss out on a lot of good candidates. Because there could be a possibility, because like I said, see, the search engine does not have that sort of mind as yet. It does not, the AI isn't as intelligent that people try to understand that profile in a deeper manner. It is only going to try to match keywords. So the right approach to this is whenever you're making filters, define 3 or 4 keywords that you're going to filter this particular candidate with. Okay, so for me, if it is a tech, the engineering head which I was looking for, my first keyword would be React.js. I try to find out all the candidates with React.js. Second, I will filter it with either Python or Django so that I get another pool. So of course, with that sort of requirements, it's not going to be 60,000 candidates. Let's say I have another 3,000 candidates. From 3,000, I'll pull it down to 1,500 candidates. Then I'll try to pull this to even further lesser. Maybe from 1,500, I'll try to get it to 700 or 800 candidates. So the idea is my filters should not narrow down too much. I should not be losing out on good candidates. That is what my objective should be. Okay. And once I have the filtering understanding, you can always try the variations. You can try the permutations and combinations that you have. So it's not necessary, doesn't, I always keep saying there is no one way of the right search. Okay. If you try the same search with different permutations and combinations, you're going to get different results. So that's how recruitment is, and that's how you stand up. So that's how. So it's important that you keep trying different things and different methods. But conceptually, what is important is you need to have clarity about what keywords I'm going to search with. Second, I'm going to work on layers. Okay, I'm going to do my search in a layered manner, the way I've spoken to you about. So 60,000, 30,000, 10,000, and then 300 candidates that I'm trying to connect. Okay, and never put too many filters together. So sometimes when we are searching for a requirement, let's say that I'm trying to look for a business development manager who is selling digital marketing services. Okay, now see, these are very closely related keywords. So I've got a keyword. So typical keywords which I will choose for myself and which are synonyms would be say sales, business development, client acquisition. So for example, these are three keywords. Now, if I try to mix a digital marketing with this is the odd man out. I'm going to get results way all over. Okay. So my right approach would be, my first keyword would be either search with all candidates having sales or business development or client acquisition in their particular profile. So Naukri or Monster or any job portal is going to pick up all these profiles with that. Once I filter these candidates, then I do my secondary filter. My secondary filter would be a more specific candidate or more specific filter. So for take an example, here again I will put it digital marketing or digital media. I use a synonym again, okay, which the candidate may use. Then I narrow down the search, and then probably I'll try to look at more filters depending on how many profiles I have. Okay, sometimes if I by doing a search, even at my second or third level, I just have about 300 or 400 profiles. There's no point narrowing them down. It is always better to look through each and every candidate there. So that's typically how I work on sourcing. And then eventually I'm going to talk about some an important aspect, which is posting a job. Okay, I think there's a question. So Kamlesh is asking in Google or LinkedIn search, can we type multiple keywords in the same line? If yes, do we have to put the inverted commas for each word so that they have to be separated with a comma? See, it's not so comma is going to give you an or option. All search engines do that, like we use in Google. If you use double quotes, it is going to give you the exact phrase. So in my suggestion to you would be never use too many words together. At the most 3 or 4 keywords at one time should be put, and then you try and narrow it down. That's why I said your search needs to be peeled like an onion. Okay, we'll answer more of these questions in the question answer section.
Akshay also has a question. Will you cover X-ray search?
X-ray search, no, not here. Here I'm just talking about the search engine specifically. Okay. So now we look at job posting. So I'll tell you before all these ATSs were there, we had to first define which job portals to post a job to, right? So as a part of my sourcing strategy, I used to think, okay, this particular job could do better on IM jobs, or let's say I'll post on LinkedIn. Now, and then I had to manually go and keep posting that job everywhere, like on each of these job portals. So one great thing which Pajama HR has done for me is that I just have to post one job at Pajama HR and it goes to multiple job boards. So it's something very good, and we've been getting some great candidates from Pajama HR from this particular strategy. I'll quickly show you how we have to do it. It's a very simple process and very effective. Saves a lot of my time as well. Okay. So let me just share my browser. There's a job which I'm supposed to put. I'm looking for a network development associate, and we'll just demonstrate how to put that on Pajama HR. I'm sharing my screen if you can see it. Okay. I hope you can see my screen where I've opened Pajama HR now.
Yes, we can see the screen.
Okay. Okay, so if you have studied and if you refined your job description, this is the next step that you do. So even before my hiring strategy, I decide, okay, what now I don't have to really worry about which job portals I need to put. I just put it on Pajama HR. I know it can go to many, and you also have the boost option now, which will automatically get you more candidates. So I'll quickly show you how to add. You just click on add a new job. You need a good job title here. So I've got that. I'm just copying that. Okay, I need to select the department. Now this is the network development associate for a VC desk that we linked with. So here they are, it's more about networking. So I'm going to put that in business development. Location we have is Mumbai. Now we get this option whether you want to post this as a remote job, but this is not a remote job, you need to work from office. So not entering any details there. And simply copying, pasting the JD which I have already created. Now give importance to your JD because try to add as many details as possible. Uh, to be honest, candidates do not read so much, which is why it needs to be very crisp and concise. So your point should cover most of these aspects. It should not be a very long, lengthy JD. Okay, so now this particular role, so what I know for a fact is I'm trying to pick up candidates who are working in international shifts here. Okay, for this VC desk. So this is a selling point for me. The fact that it's a day shift job. So I've just mentioned that so I can attract more candidates here. I posted the requirement. Now you need to choose the skills. So here again, it's important that you choose your skills properly here because that's how it's going to target the applicants. So my the important skills here are going to I'm not going to use network development because I don't think it's going to be here. No. So the skills I'll be putting in which are related to this is business development. Okay, I can try to probably put in client servicing, a client engagement or acquisition. That's a good one to have. And I'll put venture capital. Okay. We can add more if required, minimum of 3. So I can probably look, see if there's a business networking somewhere. Not there, but we can add it. I've added business networking. I just created it. So this seems fine to me. Employment, I can choose. This is a full-time role. Seniority, this is a mid-level role, rather an associate level role. The CTC offered is 10 to 12 lakhs. Industry type, this will fall under consulting. It's actually information services that I'll be looking at, but I don't have information services in this. I can go to, let's see what I have here. I can target people from outsourcing. Maybe BPO guys are my perfect target. So I'm selecting industry as BPO call center. Salary range is always better. So I'm mentioning 10 lakhs to 12 lakhs per annum. Minimum experience level, they should be okay with anything from 2 years to 5 years. Okay. I generally not hide because I prefer to keep the salaries open. So the candidate knows what he's applying. I need at least a graduate or a postgraduate. So I can select this again, any postgraduate. I've got multiple openings here. So I can choose 2. So if you want to proceed, I can just have a look at it. Business development, okay, with the function. Looks good. Proceed. That's it. So here, so that's more about the information. And now PyjamaHR gives you some options to filter your candidates. Okay. So you can get these answers when you look at job applicants. So a few things which I generally keep, I want to understand what is a notice period. I want to look at CPC. If it's this is a very interesting thing. If it's digital marketing, sorry, it's something related to art. If you're looking at an art director or something, you can always request a portfolio link here. Product marketers, if they have a portfolio link, that could be added. Specific skills if you require. So in general, I add these two, and then I'll ask some specific questions. It gives you multiple options whether you want a multiple text. I'm going to use single line text. My question to them would be, how many years of experience do you have with business networking? I can ask another question. We should not have too many questions here because we'll lose a lot on your responses. So in general, a maximum of 3 questions is good enough. So I'm going to add one more question. Key stakeholders managed. It can be mentioned. Key stakeholders that you have managed. I can make this mandatory because I need an answer on this. So this is how it's going to look. When a candidate applies, he's going to put his first name, last name, email address, phone number. He will attach his resume, the current CTC, expected CTC, notice period. How many years of experience do you have with business working? The second question I have broken it down to mention key stakeholders that you manage, because I need people who have dealt with CXOs of companies, who dealt with founders of companies. Moving on, now these are the funnels. You can add or subtract a few funnels. I think these are perfectly fine. So I'm going to keep them as they are. And click on finish. I can assign this particular role. So I'm going to assign this role to my team member, Aarti. Okay, it has been assigned now. Clicking on continue. Now, so as soon as I click on continue, the job has automatically been submitted through all these. So this is my career page. It's gone to Google Jobs. It's gone to LinkedIn, Arizona, and all the other free job portals. So the applications that you're going to get are from all these job portals. Click on done. And let's say that I want more applications on this. I can simply click on boost and then buy the packages. So this has made a lot of things easy for me. And in fact, I'm going to explore a lot more on this. So that's it for today. I think we've covered most part of our sourcing strategy, recruitment strategy, and how to find the right sort of candidates. Let's look at the questions then.
If you guys have a question, you can raise your hand as well.
I think the earlier question gentlemen asked, I think that would be better if we speak about it.
I think if you want to address to Akshay's question on can you search venture capital and investment?
Okay, I'll just check that in 1 second. So what is it that Akshay wanted? Let me close a few windows, please. Okay, so the question which Akshay asked, can you search venture capital? Akshay, can you come online, please?
Hi, Naveen.
Hi.
Hi. So I am actually looking out for people from the venture capital space
Okay.
who have experience in investing and are based in Bombay.
Okay.
These could be people with minimum, these could be people with varied experience from minimum to maximum, whatever.
Okay. So what is the question?
The question is, can I find LinkedIn profiles of these people with the help of the advanced search that you showed, and how?
So Google, okay. My reason is I'm not saying that we need to use Google, but I'm just showing you the power of Google. That in general, Google is going to show you almost everything.
No, correct. The only reason that I asked is because I have constantly been using only X-ray search. I wanted to see if Google searches better than X-ray, it'll be even better. I mean, I'll have an alternate way of searching for profiles where I probably don't get profiles as many, right?
So see, X-ray search is something which I personally have never followed. So I would not be the right person to really talk about that because I'm
Sure.
honestly.
So I'm good with knowing how it could help on Google also. I mean, that's fine. I mean, you can probably just demo one example here.
So see what happens is when you are searching. So what I would do in this particular case is that if you're looking for an investment bank, sorry, you said a VC desk, right?
Investment professional at a VC desk or at a VC firm in Mumbai.
So I don't think Google would be the right approach, but let's try it out. Can you name a few VC desks that you want to mention?
So you could probably say IVY Capital.
That is India Bravo Yankee.
Yeah. IVV Victory. Okay. IVY Capital. Yeah. So I actually thought you could, if you could use the advanced search, that could help.
Okay, so what is it that you're looking at?
A LinkedIn profile which is a professional who has investment as a keyword in the profile.
So what we can do is we can try to filter these. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say we can use what I will LinkedIn.
Can you just say linkedin.com or do you need to do linkedin.in or slash?
So I think an easier thing than doing this is actually going to their company page and doing a people search.
Correct. No, but here you will get people who would have liked the company LinkedIn page, right?
No, these are employees who are working in.
But all of them would come here, is what you're saying.
Exactly. So you don't need to go through the Google search. This is more easier. See, the reason for me to show you Google is not that you use Google. It is just for you to understand how the search engine works. I don't use Google for searching people. So I use LinkedIn. So the right way to do it is if I want to find people from this company, I just go here and then I try to find out here. And I'll have to introduce.
The only thing here is I can't apply a filter. I'll have to look at all these 38 applications, right? So
you need to purchase the LinkedIn recruiter filter. So we will give you more filters. So talent solutions are there. You buy it, get more filters.
Yeah, sure. Okay, get it. I got it.
Got it?
Done. All right.
Hiral has a question. Hiral, I'll let you speak. Yeah, Hiral, you can ask your question here.
Hi, Pujal. So I don't have a question really, but I was just telling that while looking at LinkedIn company page, you also find ex-employees in there.
Yes, of course, that happens. But see, in general, a search like this, which Akshay just mentioned, which a VC desk, these are not too many people to scan.
Yeah.
The challenge becomes when you need more filters is when you have 300, 400 applications.
Yes.
That's when you need filters. I'll not use filters for this. It is much easier to scan like that. And if you go for the talent solutions, you're going to get more options here. Any more?
Nothing. Thanks.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I think that's all. Does anyone else have any questions today?
It looks all right, Sushal, then. So, shall we conclude?
Yeah, that's all I think. Thank you everyone for joining for this insightful webinar. We just want to remind you that there's another webinar, the final webinar of the series, the next Thursday, for which we'll send out another mail. Thank you, Naveen, for your time today. It was a great webinar session.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.